norms and stereotypes to making sure that the butts are wet. Boy, girl, mom and dad want grown-up time, you're going mad. It's a trip, but we'll guide you through with tips and tricks for boys and girls too. All right, and welcome back to Boy, Girl, Mom and Dad. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Nick.
And this is episode 15. It's like a quinceañera. Sweet 15.
Yeah.
And today's episode is called...
It's called Controversial Things We Did / Do as Parents.
Yes. We're going to talk about it. But before we do, we're going to have a tiff like we do every week. Do you want to share the tiff, Nick? I don't know what it is.
To share the tiff.
Okay.
So it's a tiny one.
Okay.
Like I said a few minutes ago, you should be happy that it takes me a long time to think about them because I don't have that many and I don't keep a list. So here's a tiny one.
Yeah. The backstory, though, is that I didn't have one and I didn't have time to think of one. And so I was like, Nick, handing it off to you, you figure it out.
Because there's only 14 things that make you upset about me and that's it. So win.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine is, I've titled it Cup.
Cup. Okay.
So there are cup holders in the car.
Okay.
And compartments in the car. I like to use them for their intended purposes. And something that frustrates me much more than it should is when there's something in the cup holder that's not a cup that inhibits me from putting a cup in the cup holder. So let me play you a little scenario.
Got it.
I'm holding Cypress. I'm walking to the car. We have a tiny little garage because we live in LA, so we can't really open all the doors. You know that, right? The only door we can really easily open is the driver's side door. So I open the driver's side door. I have one arm. I reach in with my one arm to put my cup of coffee or water or whatever I have in the cup holder. And what's in the cup holder?
Probably sunglasses.
Dinosaurs, things that we use. I'm not saying we're cluttered, but it's unnecessarily frustrating to me that I can't use the cup holder so my preference is either there's a cup there or nothing is there. So I can use it.
Yeah, I get it. I think
it's tiny. It's a little.
Yeah, I get it. I think for me, I never just like reach in and put something in the cup holder. If I have stuff in my hands, I put it in the seat and then I go put it in Cypress. So I'm not using the cup holder immediately. It also doesn't really bother me, I don't think, to have to move something, but also a lot of my stuff doesn't fit in the cup holder. So like the water bottle I'm using is my favorite water bottle. I have several. This is the Beaker water bottle. It is a liter. And this does not fit in the cup holder. They actually just came out. I think they're shipping now. They've been pre-ordered, but a cup that does fit in the cup holder. But this doesn't. And so I just never really worry about the cup holder. And oftentimes I'll put it like on the side or like in the passenger seat if I'm driving by myself. Sometimes I feel like it's your sunglasses in the cup holder because I try to put mine on the side. But I know that you put that there because you like to put your sunglasses on the passenger like flip down mirror, which then just gets in my face and then I can't use the mirror. So I know I don't like that. So maybe you're being sweet with that. I understand it's a tiff, but I guess the question is for our listeners is, do you put actual cups in your cup holder or do you put other things, or is it a mixture? It just doesn't really bother me.
Yes, but it does bother me.
Yeah. Yeah. So Nick is pro cups. I'm just like, whatever.
I wouldn't say that you're anti-cup. I think that you don't consider the risk of putting a cup, even a closed one, in a seat.
No, I know the risk, but if my beverage holder doesn't fit in the cup holder, I'm just like, eh. Yeah.
But if you put your coffee mug or your tea mug in your seat and it tips over while you're loading the babies in, then you have to sit in a puddle.
Maybe. Try to screw it on tighter, but sometimes I know I mess that up too.
I don't think you mess it up. I think you don't screw it on as tight as it could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my cup tiff.
So what we want to know what your cup holders look like. Please tell us.
Yes. Are they empty? Or do they have cups in them? Or do you keep other things that are not necessarily cup shaped?
Yeah. I like it.
Also, Volvo, listen up. Where's your sunglasses holder in the top of the ceiling?
Oh, everybody knows what car we drive. I've never posted it. For safety. I guess they don't.
Bentley. It's a Volvo.
No, there's some creepos out there. But I guess they don't know what car.
I'm not giving the license plate, the VIN number.
Or the color. No. Yeah. Can you go ahead and give me the last four of your social and your favorite color?
Sure.
Yeah.
Last four of my social is A, B, C, D.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into it. I feel like
get
that was a
into it.
semi-controversial. You picked a good tip because we don't want to be
Thank
too
you.
controversial today. Just we're already talking about controversies, so that's probably a good way to ease into it. But we are going to be talking about controversial things we did and are doing as parents. But before we get into that, I just want to say that we will not be giving medical advice. So if you were hoping that we would talk about that, very sorry to disappoint. We hope you'll still listen.
So the things that we're talking about could be considered medical advice, but we are not claiming to give you medical advice. What we are doing
Correct.
is telling you what we did, which is an amalgam of advice from doctors and from people and what we just decided to do, with all that input, whatever. This is just us saying what we did.
Yep.
No medical advice.
Correct. Before we get into the actual controversies, I was looking at stuff to talk about in this episode and making sure I didn't forget anything. And I came upon, I'd heard of Crunchy Mom, but have you heard of Silky Mom? I heard it on TikTok.
No.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
So I've heard Crunchy Mom a lot.
Yeah.
There are actually some accounts called Crunchy Mom that either make fun of it or are
like a parody or are.
I don't know what Silky is.
Silky Mom is basically the opposite, and it's go with the flow. So think of it as like silk is soft and just like running through things, whereas Crunchy is hard and they're hard set in their ways.
So they're like opposites a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Sorry.
Oh, you're just
repeating.
You say opposite. Oh, yeah, I said opposites. Okay. It's okay. Think of the silk as being like soft and just like going with the flow. It's out of ease and not like dangerous. It's just like more like what is easier right now to stay sane almost. But it's the opposite. And like I feel like I would classify myself as kind of crunchy. I'm not fully there. Like we don't use fragrances in our home. Like we don't have that on detergents. If we do have some fragrances in like candles and such, then they're like essential oils or something like that. They're not synthetic fragrances. I'm trying to think of other examples.
I would say like added fragrances we don't use. You kind of said that.
Yeah.
It's not that we hate good smells.
It's and also they've always just given me a headache. I mean, I was on hormonal birth control for almost 10 years and I had horrible headaches when I was on that. And when I got off, my headaches got better. But the final like straw for me to not having like, I don't know, a migraine a week was cutting out fragrances. And so there's just fragrances in everything. Like I said laundry detergent, but obviously perfumes, you're directly applying it in soaps, in like skin creams. Yeah, there's stuff. And then like some stuff I'm like, why are you putting that in there? Like we had some ear medicine for Dino and it smells honestly like cucumber melon from Bath & Body Works. I'm like, my dog doesn't need to smell like that. You don't need a scent in that. And you can research it for yourself, but basically they are endocrine disruptors, which can mess with your hormones. So
we've heard.
So we've heard, but this isn't medical advice. But I would say like I'm kind of crunchy, but like we still have like, I buy Just Bare chicken nuggets and they eat those. So it's not just like stuff fresh from the garden or all organic or anything like that. So that's why I'd say I lean towards crunchy, but I'm not completely there.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I think you're a crunchy mom. I don't think that you are extreme. I think that most mothers that would see you would say you're a crunchy mom. Not in a bad way. Just like the example you just gave of bad things that you give your kids is Just Bare, which is like one of the better and more organic and clean freezer food products where, people are concerned about giving their kids
I guess
other brands that I won't name, it's,
I
think you're further over on that scale than you feel like you might be. Not to say you're not easygoing. I'm just saying with respect to the products and things that the kids use, you're fairly crunchy.
Yeah, I mean, I do bend that way, but like I'm not going to stress about, buying chicken tenders at Disneyland or whatever. Like they've had those. It's just like whatever I stock. They still haven't had chocolate. We'll have that after 2. We just started giving them a little bite of bacon a day. And usually I was going to do that like after 2, but they're basically almost 2 now. Just because of like the salt content. They don't have juice. I don't know.
I feel like there's a difference between what we're giving them and the quality of what we're giving.
Yeah.
Because like when we give them chocolate and coffee and whatever else is different than like, are we giving them good quality of those products? I feel like you're right. Way over on the good quality side, which I definitely am as well. So I'm happy about that part. We don't have to spend all the time on crunchy versus silky, but like, I don't know that they're actually opposites. I think parts of them are.
Yeah.
Because like you are very easygoing with respect to parenting. Whereas with respect to food and what they consume and the products that are around them, you're a little more crunchy. I don't know if they're like You know what I mean?
You're right, because it's like, yeah, I'm giving them mac and cheese and they have had Kraft, but typically we give them Annie's just for the
Right.
dyes and stuff like that. So
Right.
you're right. I am over there. I'm just like not completely over there because I don't know that like 100% Crunchy Mom would give them packaged macaroni and cheese.
Sure.
So that's kind of what I'm
You
saying.
would have to grow the mac.
Grow the macaroni.
in a
I'm
garden.
on my personal account, El Molinas, I posted about like making homemade whipped cream, which like you should do it. I'll put the link in here just so you can see how to do it. It's super easy. But a lady got mad at me on TikTok because I didn't make the whipping cream myself. So therefore I was still making and eating store-bought whipping cream, which like isn't true. I mean, I would have to have a cow. So sorry, I don't have a cow to then make everything from scratch. But I think you're avoiding a lot of processed chemicals, etc., by making it yourself, and it's super easy and better. So yeah,
For those of you who have seen Portlandia, which I don't think Lauren has,
I've seen some of it.
There's a funny scene that I'm reminded of that's like it's an extreme version of like a crunchy person. They're at a restaurant and they're like ordering chicken, and the server is they give them a fact sheet about the chicken and said it's from a farm up the road and it's had a great life. These are the names of its friends, like all these things. And they end up going from their table to the farm for hours to visit the farm and see the environment the chicken's in and all these things. And then they come back and eat. You're reminding me of that. My point is, you're not all the way over there.
No.
But it's a funny...
We do buy like the cage-free organic eggs.
Yeah.
It also makes me think of Belcampo, which we used to have here in LA before it closed, and they were like
R.I.P.
humanely raised, and it was so delicious. But they had like the farm you could go and visit. So, and also just with talking to Silky and Crunchy Mom, I was like looking at different types of moms. And there was an article that I found, I'll link it, that has 5 moms. It's like the go with the flow mom, the by the book mom, the perfect mom, which is like, it's like, this is a joke because it's not even real. Like you can't be the perfect mom. The martyr mom, which is like martyrdom. And then the guilt-free mom. So like they are able to go and do things for themselves without feeling guilty. And I don't know that I fit in any one specific of those, which I think is kind of the overhead
kind of the
like
point,
topic. Probably. I mean, obviously I felt left out as a twin mom regarding like boy, girl, mom situation and just like twin mom in general, because like a lot of people just can't relate to that. But I also made decisions for what was best for our family that don't really fit in one box, you know, and we'll get into like what those things were. But ultimately, I think parenting is just like doing what's best for you and your family. And that can look different in a lot of ways across.
I think you're the perfect parent.
Aw, but that's not true. And we know it. But I'll give you some points for that. I just think that's the whole point before we get into the things that we did differently, that, you know, that's what worked for us. And that's what we did. So this is really just to have some fun with it and talk about things because we've gotten comments about things that we've done or do, and I just thought it would be interesting to hear.
Also, if you're not willing to talk about things you do differently or the things other people do differently than you with respect to parenting, then you're probably a little prideful about your system for parenting.
Yeah, and I just like love to learn.
That was the collective you, of course, not the
no. I know, I understand. I love to learn, and I think that's why I liked school. Like, I wasn't the best test taker, but like
who is?
I don't know. I think you're probably a better test taker than I was, but I liked no.
You ever seen one of my essays?
Oh, I did. Whew. I did do well on my essays.
Any math question, I'm fine.
Yeah, essays? But in standardized test, I did do better on the math than like the reading, writing portion. Where was I going with this? Oh, but I just like to learn. And so I like to read books or listen to books and just see how other people do things. I may not agree with the whole book, but I will like pick and choose things. So like we're not fully Montessori. I don't even know that we're somewhat, but I wouldn't even say halfway Montessori, but I do like a lot of the aspects. Like I read The Montessori Toddler. Another one that I really like that I mentioned before is Hunt, Gather, Parent. And it goes and looks at all of the other like ancient civilizations and cultures and how they raised and what they did. And I just like to learn that and kind of pick and choose what works for us, what we can implement and things like that. So that's kind of like what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
We're going to start it off with the only somewhat medical topic we're going to talk about today. And it's just because I feel led to say it because I had one. We're going to talk about C-sections, cesarean sections. And I wanted to bring this up because I don't feel this way, but I know a lot of moms who had a traumatic birth and and or also had a C-section and they were not planning to have one. And I just want to say, like, first of all, those feelings are valid, but also that doesn't make you less of a mom. I see these posts that are just like, oh, it wasn't like the natural way and things like that. And like C-sections were created to help in a situation where they can't help. And I understand that sometimes it can be abused or people have opinions on like scheduling them or whatever. I had a C-section and I went into my twin pregnancy knowing I would probably have a C-section. My doctor told me that if the twins were both head down, then we could try if I wanted to do it vaginally. But they were only head down once. And Nick is pouring coffee in here. That's from his fellow Carter Move mug.
Slowly opening this
yeah, it's
to not
okay.
interrupt. I'm just gonna pour it out.
You just couldn't wait.
It's time for cup number 2. That probably sounds amazing.
Yeah. He's using his fellow Carter Move mug, which actually does fit in the cup holder. The original version does not, but this one does. It has a nice spill-proof thing in the middle. And he's using his fellow Big Joe mug that we have now bought.
Sponsor us, fellow.
A fourth one over the last 3 months, because the other one he's had for years has never broken and somehow has broken 3 times in the last month. So
not a slight on fellow. That's because
no,
too
it's
close
all
to
personal.
where the twins can reach, or I've done it. So
yeah, it's all personal issues. So anyway, back to C-sections, Nick. I knew that I was going to probably have a C-section going into it. And like I said, like they were only head down once, like around 24 weeks, and they were never head down again. They were, there's a word for it when they're like sideways. I forget what it
is.
Transverse. There you go, baby. Thank you. And also we ended up having to have a C-section because my platelets were low. And if they were going to drop any lower, I would have to be like put under. And we didn't want to have to do that if possible. And so we had a C-section right then, like when I went in, like 8 hours later. I guess it's not right then. But anyway, I just wanted to mention C-section. They're controversial.
I would like to bring us back to the purpose of the title. So can you help us understand what is controversial about a C-section? I think you peppered a bit.
I don't know that I want to talk about that, but I think there are benefits. There's benefits to having a baby vaginally because you're going through and getting the I forget the stuff. So like you're passing through. It also helps get like the fluid out of their ears when they go through. C-section is a major surgery. It should not be taken lightly. You know, it's the only like major surgery out there that they don't prescribe physical therapy afterwards. I did it, but it's not like mandatory. You think I'm still off topic?
No.
Oh. There's just more complications often than not with a C-section.
I think the answer you're giving me is more medical.
Yeah.
And the title is controversial things that we've done. So I think I want to call out 2 things. One, we didn't choose to do a C-section on purpose for reasons of preference, right?
Yeah.
It was to your point and the details you gave. It was it was a medical recommendation for us. We went with that recommendation. Mm-hmm. Aside from that, I think you're valid in saying it's a controversial topic, natural versus, or not natural, but vaginal versus C-section, right? Mm-hmm. Sorry, we should probably say why you corrected me there. So, and you did it right, but like saying that the vaginal way is natural is assuming the other one is unnatural. I don't think we've brought that up before. No. That's why you're correct, which I'm with you on that. So vaginal versus C-section, you're saying this is controversial. I agree with you. My question is why? You've talked about a little bit of it, that some people have negative associations with C-sections, possibly because, and I'm reading this back to you, possibly because people choose it for vanity reasons or for ease of the experience or whatever, right? So can you lead us through some of the things you think are controversial about it? Because there's a reason you put it on this list. That's what I'm asking about.
Well, I wanted to talk about it just to say, like, if you had one, you shouldn't feel bad. Like, I think that is something that I think comes with it, the territory of, and I know it's totally okay, like, to not want to have one. I don't know, most people I know don't go and be like, yeah, I want to have a C-section. And so really I just wanted to talk about it because I don't want you to feel bad for having one. And a lot of the media and comments on it make you feel bad. And if you already have had a traumatic situation on top of that, it doesn't make you feel good. It's like another layer of like not feel goodness. That's not a word, but that's why I just wanted to mention it.
Yeah, which I think is good. So like a headline could be, however your experience looked, whether it included a C-section or not, it's the right experience for you and for that baby, right? So don't feel, to your point, don't feel shame. And I think there is some shame associated to having one. like the other way as well. So like whether you wanted to or not, recovery looks different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to say it another way. Bounce back looks different,
Yeah.
right?
And Nick is not endorsing the term bounce back. He's just
Yeah, I
saying
just
what
don't
is
know
said.
what else to say.
Yeah.
That's what people say,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all to say, I agree with you. It's controversial. I don't think I want to get into people who are voluntarily choosing to do it, but like it's an
Yeah.
option and it's an okay option, and those who
Yeah.
choose it are not
Mm-hmm.
less
I would
than.
discuss it with your doctor. My doctor is amazing, Dr. Shamsa Mercy. Her C-section rate is so low; it's like 3%. So whenever she recommended it to me, like I hope you have a doctor and a team who you inherently trust. I know that is not the case for everybody, and I trusted her and still do trust her with my life. And so, especially with someone with such a low rate and with this suggestion for me and my situation, I just took that.
And by the way, the low rate is not associated with C-sections being bad, to our
Nope.
earlier point. It's just that's a measurement for whether that doctor recommends them as a voluntary option or not. And this one does not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway,
we spent a lot of time on that one.
Yeah.
That's my fault. Let's keep
it's
going.
okay. It's okay. Regardless of your situation, it's just like I want you to feel uplifted and that some people are like, you're not a mom if you didn't deliver naturally. And I'm just like, you're a mom and you're great.
Yes. And don't look at somebody who either did or didn't have one and have envy or jealousy for their situation, because their situation was right for them. Yours was right for you.
Yeah. I think this is probably just repeating myself too much, but it's important. I want to drive it home.
This whole episode's about C-sections.
It's just that I just have seen and witnessed and heard conversations of like the right way or like the best way or how it was intended. And I just think just like, diets, not as in promoting like diet culture, but in what you eat, it's different for every person. I've talked about it before, but like I have ulcerative colitis and it is better to have all of your vegetables cooked versus raw, whereas you have people over here saying, raw diet is best. And that's just not the case. People are different, bodies are different, needs are different, families are different. So anyway, all that to say, I think we're done talking about C-section.
Next topic.
All right, the next topic. Our babies did not sleep in our room. They didn't. And except for a small time whenever we had construction.
This is why I didn't want to bring it up. The title you wrote here, I know what you're trying to talk about. They didn't sleep in our room. We didn't have the cribs in our room. The only time we had bassinets near us was out of necessity because we had construction in our apartment.
Yeah.
And we literally couldn't use the nursery.
When they were 3-ish, 4 months old, arguably, in my opinion, the hardest time in the first year, they were sleeping in our room because their nursery had mold in it and they could not use it. So, and honestly, Nick and I were like, can they go back to their room? Yeah. I know that there's benefits of having the babies in your room and there's studies you can find. But for us, with 2 babies, it would require 2 bassinets or a double bassinet. And their room is literally right across the hall from us. We're actually in their room right now. It's right across the hall from us. And so that's where the diaper changing station was and their beds. And so because it was so close, I talked to Natalie from Twiniversity about this. Natalie Diaz, the founder, she wrote What to Do When You're Having Two. And she was like, I would just leave them in their room just because it's so close. It's not like up the stairs, any of that. We did have like the double bassinet. We would use as somewhat of a baby holder downstairs. And then like Nick said, in our room when we had construction, and we use it on like road trips, but they didn't sleep in our room.
Yeah.
And I think, twins offer a different situation.
Yeah, there's not too much to talk about. I mean, I know people who do it. I don't think it's a terrible thing. We just chose not to. And I kind of like that we chose not to. I mean, I don't know how many times we've joked that it would be wonderful to like grab them and bring them in or have them sleep near us.
Cuddles.
Because it's cute. Yeah. But yeah, it's nice that I would say they're comfortable sleeping in here.
Yeah, I agree.
Not to say that's our doing entirely, but I think it's probably encouraged by, this is all they really know as far as where to sleep.
Yeah. And I do think that it probably helped them love their beds. They love their beds. So they sometimes even ask to play in it. They're like crib, and they like to play in it.
Yeah. And
kind of on that note, Nick, I'm skipping around just because I think it makes more sense. But
oh no.
Yeah. But we don't have blackout curtains and we didn't do blackout curtains. We just have regular curtains, and that was on purpose. From first of all, it was the curtains that our apartment came with, so I was like, great. It kind of goes with the theme, and I don't have to buy anything. Might as well just leave them. But also, I didn't want to make it to where they could only sleep in blackout. And I actually posted a picture recently, and one of our listeners commented and was like, what? Your twins sleep in the daylight? And I'm like, yeah, I purposely didn't buy blackout curtains. And we got comments about like that. Oh, you're going to buy blackout curtains, right? And I was like, no, I don't want to spend more money on something. And I also want them to be able to be more flexible. And so, yeah, they can sleep in the daylight. Like I said, they're just normal curtains. So some daylight gets through, but their room is not pitch black.
So to be more specific, when she says normal, she's talking about not blackout curtains. I guess there would be drapes.
Yeah, they're drapes.
They're like tannish. We cover the window with them when the twins are sleeping. Mm-hmm. So it gets a little more dim, but it's not anywhere near blackout. No. So when you say they sleep in daylight, you mean they sleep in a lit like room from the ambient sunlight.
Yes,
not like
correct.
We don't leave like the curtains wide open.
Yeah. The only time it gets hard is like when we're traveling and we're sleeping in the same room. We have the guava lotus cribs that have like a sunshade that covers part of it that we do put on top of it just to try and block out us. We don't have the slumber pod, and I've mentioned that before. I think the slumber pod works great for people, especially if they're used to sleeping with like blackout curtains and like it's like they have their own room. But they're kind of expensive, and we would have to buy 2 of them and pack 2 of them, and it just hasn't been on our list, and so far we've been able to make it work.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, that's to block out like the super bright lights we have to have on in the hotel room.
Or just to cover us so they're not just like staring at us.
Right.
So, yeah. And also along this sleep note, we only use sleep sacks at night. We didn't use them ever at nap time. That was also like a conscious decision that I made, just because I like, they're not always going to be able to take a nap with a sleep sack. So we're only using them at night, and it's part of like the bedtime cue and routine. They do like to play with them during the day, but we don't ever put them on like to sleep during the day, even when they were little. We also, on the note, we didn't swaddle. And I think just because it made me nervous, just like with them like rolling over, we did use until they rolled.
Swaddle for naps or for sleeping?
We didn't swaddle at all.
I mean, I remember
in the hospital we did. Kind of like loosely, but let me get to my point. We use the Love to Dream sleep sack things that Nick called starfish, where their arms are up.
Starfish costumes.
So that, Nick would call them starfish costumes. That we would, like if they were to roll over, they could still like push up from their face. And we did use those. And actually, while I'm thinking about it, like our crib is from Milk Street Baby and our mattress is from Colgate Kids. I have a whole post on that, especially if you want to get into like the breathable topic of mattresses. I really have an in-depth post on it. There's not a way to regulate the word breathable, so just keep that in mind. But I do have a blog post if you want to read more about that. But we didn't swaddle, and we used the Love to Dream till they could roll over, and then we used Burt's Bees sleep sacks are the ones that we have used the whole time. Yep. They're organic cotton. They're soft, relatively good in price for the organic, and compared to, I know, the ones on the market that people like to use, but that's what we used. What did you want to say about the swaddling?
I just remember doing it immediately after we left the hospital, but we didn't do it that much.
I remember
me liking to do it and knowing how.
Yeah, Nick had to do it in the hospital just because I was strapped to the bed with the leg things on.
Being lazy.
Yeah, I couldn't move. But I will say we did kind of swaddle sometimes whenever they were crying and couldn't be calmed down. That helped.
Yes, that's all I was clarifying, is that we didn't like use the swaddle to force them to go to sleep. Mm-mm. We did swaddle them, but not specifically for sleep.
We're talking summer travel. We're talking fall travel. Really, anytime. With our toddlers specifically, or if you have a baby, you're going to be carrying your kid a bit, right? And sometimes children don't like to be in a container, a wrap or whatever. And so today we're excited to talk about Tush Baby. Mm-hmm. It is basically, would you call it an apparatus? You strap it onto your hips, and it has a little seat for your child to sit on.
It's called a wearable.
A wearable. I like it. And basically it's saving your back. The child has a seat to sit on, and it equally proportions it as much as you can.
Distributes.
Yes. There you go. Thank you very much. And basically just makes it easier to carry your child, especially if they are on the heavier side. And we're so excited to bring you a discount code.
Yeah.
We have BGMAD for 15%
BGMAD.
off. We have I don't remember if it's vegan leather or real leather, but it's a quilted leather looking version, but they have fabric and they even come out with seasonal options too. It's just a good thing to have. We keep it in the car just for ease of access. My mom has one. She's actually the one who turned me on to it. I remember like seeing it on Shark Tank a couple years ago when they first launched, but yeah, it's great and we would highly recommend it.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. I mean, it makes your kid, not everybody has twins, Nick, come on, your kid more comfortable to sit up and be near you while you're holding them. And like you said, it kind of distributes the weight on your back. It makes you feel like you're kind of carrying a backpack instead of like a kid on one side.
Yeah, there's not a twin version, which honestly I'm not sure how it would work, just because you do need to hold on to your child still. And so if you had one on either side, it would be kind of hard to
That's
do.
all you would be doing.
You wouldn't be able to do anything else. But overall, a great buy. And especially if your child doesn't like being worn, you might try this because they'll probably enjoy this better.
Yeah, there's no like straps around the kid. It's just the seat for them.
Yep.
So yeah.
Try it out.
BGMAD.
Use code BGMAD for 15% off and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back up our list, Nick. We're going to talk about baths. So this, I feel like, is controversial in and of itself. We did delay the bath in the hospital, which you can do, which helps, like, I forget all the sciencey stuff about it, but we did delay the bath at the hospital. But also, once we brought them home, I want to say as a newborn, we would make sure they didn't have like milk under their necks and stuff like that. But I feel like we bathed them like once every 2 weeks.
I think it was slightly more frequent, but maybe.
And then now we probably give them a bath.
I mean, measuring time around then was difficult. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. And to be clear, what you're saying is controversial is the frequency of,
yes,
not whether you should bathe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And now they are, almost 21 months old, and we bathe them 1 to 2 times a week.
Yeah.
Unless they, were at the beach or the pool, that type of thing, or that got really dirty. But other than that, we don't bathe them every day. And I know that some people like to do it just because of, a bedtime routine or something to do at night. It's just a lot bathing too. And
it's also hard to do if just one of us is available.
Yeah. And I would say that at least 50% of that time, I'm probably doing it by myself. And
I mean, because I'm probably playing video games.
Yeah. Nick's just never here. Just kidding. Total joke. But yeah, we don't do it every day. And actually, I saw a TikTok recently. I already knew that I was going to mention bath time, but I saw a TikTok, and this was a study, a direction from the American Dermatology Academy or something like that. And they recommend you bathe kids 1 to 2 times a week. And that was for 6 to 11-year-olds. So I'm not sure what they say for younger.
6 to 11-year-olds?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But that's kind of what we do for our kids.
Even though we don't do it every day, I do find that it helps to ease them into bedtime, and it does kind of regulate them well. I don't think we've made a conscious decision not to do it for any sleep reasons, just to be super clear.
What do you mean by sleep reasons?
So what I was saying about regulate, a lot of the reason, to my knowledge, people like to do it every day is to ease them into bedtime.
Oh, like a routine, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. We don't do that, although I do find that it helps when we bathe them. But
especially after a long day, overstimulating day.
We don't religiously do it every day, to your point. We'll do it once or twice a week or more if they've been,
And we clean off their face and their hands and that type of thing. But growing up, my sister and I would bathe every other day.
Growing up,
or maybe we washed our hair every other day.
What do you mean by growing up? You need to give
when I was younger. I don't know.
Okay.
Well,
because I'm just clarifying, because our experience is less than 2-year-olds. So I don't know.
Well, I don't recall about that. Yeah, I think maybe we did.
That's what I'm calling.
I think actually, let me take it back. I think we did bathe every day. We took showers at night, but we washed our hair every other day. But again, that's when we could take showers by ourselves. So
right,
that's a little bit different.
Yeah, we're not really. We're kind of talking about the babies.
Yeah, I'm thinking
early toddlers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well,
I'm not telling you to shut up. I'm sorry. I'm not telling you to shut up. I just don't. We're not talking about that age group yet.
Yeah. So
I don't want to blend recommendations.
No. So on to the next one. We're gonna talk about diapers, We always
Should you use them?
No, I mean, some people might tell you otherwise. What's controversial about this for us, or that we experienced, is that we changed them fairly soon after they went. Now, let's think back to newborn when they're going to the bathroom more frequently. Whenever they were that small, they were either, when they were sad, they were either tired, hungry, or their diaper was uncomfortable. And so that was one of our first instincts, like, let's change the diaper. We had people say, like, oh, you don't need to change it that fast. I had people on Instagram commenting when I said how many diapers we would go through, like, oh, you don't need to change them that much. I'm like, I mean, I don't want to sit in that. They don't want to sit in that. Like, and if that's an easy way to make them stop crying, like, I'm gonna do that. So we changed them probably more than, I guess, other people were.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if we saw that line, the blue line, as we call it, we had a term for it. We would say they've blue lined. Unless we were actively doing something else that we couldn't change them, we would change them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we wouldn't really wait. I think like the number ones are the recommendation we had to just like wait until the diaper's full. And I mean, I'm not necessarily against that, but to your point, we didn't do that.
No.
It was not worth it to us for them to be uncomfortable and upset just to save a diaper.
Yeah. And what Nick means by blue line is the diaper. I actually have a blog post in my backlog of wanting to go through all the diapers because I have tried all of them. Our favorite is diaper, DYPER. And like similar to other diapers, they have like the line that tells you if the diaper's wet. So it's yellow. And then once they've gone to the bathroom, number one, then it turns blue. So that's what he means by that. Okay, on to the next one, pacifiers. People are either like pro-passy or no-go. And I know that like dentally it can cause problems, but I like packed them in our hospital bag and I had them on hand, but we didn't start introducing them until about 3 months. And that's when they were trying to go to sleep and having a lot of trouble. And that helped them soothe themselves to sleep. We stopped around 19 months cold turkey because one of them has a loose tooth just from hitting it so many times. And our dentist recommended that they stop using them just because the sucking motion doesn't allow the tooth to heal. And so if we wanted, even though it's a baby tooth, but if we wanted the tooth to heal, we should stop. So we stopped cold turkey, and we'd already started only allowing them to have them at like sleeping time. So like nap time and bedtime. We did allow like on road trips and planes. And I think that's the part where we felt it the most as a struggle of like not having them. But I don't know. I didn't have a strong opinion on them. I was like, if they need them, they need them. If they don't, they don't. And yeah.
You had a strong opinion on them when the dentist recommended we stop using them.
Right. But like I was like, we'll see what happens when they were born. Like I wasn't against it, but I didn't think they didn't need it right when they were born. If they needed some soothing something, then I would have like offered it. So that's what I mean. I was more like go with the flow until like medically we had a doctor say,
yeah, I think you're right.
You should stop doing this.
I if I remember correctly, we started using them around the time when their like mouth pain started.
Yeah, you're right. They started teething around 3 months.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, I mean, we're pro pacifier, I think, for these twins at least. But, you know, we're two things. We're not going to talk about the dentist specifically, but we chose to go to the dentist earlier than some pediatricians will recommend you go. When do they want you to go? 6 months or something, right? Or a year?
At least once by a year.
At least once by a year is what dentists recommend, pediatric dentists. And some pediatricians will tell you can wait until 2 years.
2 or 3, yeah.
We have a good friend who's a dentist, not a pediatric, but a dentist that we go to.
He's our dentist.
Yeah, and he was saying, get him in, you know, which makes sense. So what I'm trying to say is with respect to pacifiers, it would have been nice to know earlier.
Yeah.
Because we brought them in, at 18 months, 17 months?
Yeah. No, it was around 18, 19 because we stopped at 19 months.
Sure. Okay. The dentist would have recommended getting them off pacifiers a little sooner. So
because of that mouth trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the next one?
Toy Not Toy.
Yeah.
I like the title.
I know.
Toy Not Toys this is a Nick and Lauren name, not an industry standard name. Toy Not Toys are kind of self-explanatory. They are things that are not created for the sole purpose of being a toy that become toys. So basically anything that was safe around us that were cool with the kids handling at the time, we would give them to hold or to play with or whatever, and we would call those toy not toys. Examples would include the insert in the front of your seat on an airplane, little like capped deodorant bottle things that you got shipped to us,
Mm-hmm.
pieces of paper. I don't know, like we would hand a ton of stuff to them, and of course watch them and monitor them and make sure they were safe.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't handing them knives or anything crazy, or pens or something that could hurt them, but toy not toys were great for us.
Well, and you said safe, and I want to do a caveat. And like also say, like Nick said, we are watching them the whole time. Sometimes that would be like a wipe container, or like what the wipes are held in, how it's like crunchy. And I say that because it says on there, this is not a toy, this is not for children. But I'd be like, hey, would you help me and just hold these wipes for me while I'm changing your diaper? And it gave them something to do if they didn't like the change. And they also just like the crinkle. And I know why it says like not recommended for kids, do not play. But I was watching them the whole time. And so, yeah, that's why it's somewhat controversial, but we're giving them things that were not made specifically for children.
Yeah, I think that, like, to your point, the controversial part is letting them play with things that aren't toys. But there's plenty of things that aren't built to be toys that are safe. So use your discretion.
Mm-hmm.
I like this recommendation. Yeah, I mean, I wish people would have given it to. I mean, it's not a huge thing, but just like it's something we started doing that I'm very happy we kind of still do.
Yeah. Okay. Also on the what is safe, we're going to talk about bottle propping, which is controversial. And I just want to say that we did bottle propping, but we did not ever do it lying flat. And that is where it gets dangerous.
Sorry, I need to understand better, when the baby is lying flat.
Correct. They were not just laying flat on their back. We never gave it to them in their crib, and we were always there.
Yes.
And they were usually on their twin Z pillow. I would have loved to just hold them both and use my hands to feed them, but it's just not always possible with twins, especially as they grow and they don't fit into the crook of my legs anymore.
Yeah.
Or your arms also hurt because you are holding two bottles. And so we would sometimes do a light bottle prop of just like, we didn't ever buy the actual things that you can like put under them. We would just use like a rag, a burp cloth underneath it folded. Nick's mom first folded that under there.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. But we would do that when we needed like a little break. But we were obviously sitting there the whole time watching them.
Right.
We were never like leaving them when they were doing that.
Yeah. Again, not medical advice, but the scary part of auto feeding, as we used to call it, is when you're using it as an excuse to not pay attention or to walk away and go do something else and you're not monitoring your kid.
Yeah.
Not to get too graphic, but like they could drown. And,
choke.
Yeah. Well, both, right? You can either one. Like it should not be a replacement for you being there and monitoring what's going on.
Yeah. And I got some DMs because I would sometimes share things and it was about like bottle propping but I also had some twin moms being like, yeah, other people just don't get it. Like when you have
it's a new challenge with twins.
And so we are not saying go bottle prop. It's just like something that we did and we didn't lie them flat. I think that's the biggest thing. And we never put them in their crib with it. They've never had their bottles in their crib. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I miss that term, auto feeding. It was fun to use.
It was fun. We can still, they auto feed themselves now though, Nick.
Yeah, that's true. They very much do. Okay. So we can move on. Apps for milestones. So there's a lot of apps that serve this sole purpose of tracking the milestones of your baby, developmental milestones, learning milestones, growth milestones. There are also features of specific apps like camera apps or others that might be baby or child focused, but there's certain features that do the same thing. We did not really use them. I'm happy we didn't use them. I think that the reason we didn't, to refresh my memory, is because we didn't want to compare to a standard of is our kid doing well or not. I feel like it's kind of like the heart monitor thing where I'm happy we didn't do it. Because it adds an extra layer of anxiety.
You're talking about the foot monitor?
Yes. The foot monitor for cameras that monitors heart rate. So I like that we didn't have the anxiety of like, oh, it's 3 months. They should be able to sign this many things or whatever, like not to say that we didn't pay attention to those milestones in our kids, but I like that we didn't so closely track them with an app.
Yeah. And just a side note, we do have the Owlet monitor system and it's great. We just don't use the foot sock.
And not to say you shouldn't, like it's not a bad thing to use. We just chose not to.
Well, I was going to say the recommendation is if you need a foot sock monitor, the doctor will give you one.
That's the recommendation we receive.
Yeah, there's usually like hospital grade ones that if that's something you're interested in, you should talk to your doctor.
To bring it back to the milestone tracking, we didn't want to add the anxiety of, are they hitting the right thing, you know?
Right. So for me, yeah, it was definitely anxiety that I didn't want to give me another reason to be worried if they weren't hitting something.
Mm-hmm.
Also, with twins, I'd say, unfortunately, fortunately, you're already comparing them to each other. I don't need to compare them to, whatever the milestones are.
Mm-hmm.
And we also just relied heavily on our doctor about that. I think there are some things, if you're feeling you need early intervention on something, being aware of something like that is good. But, we just relied on our doctor and went with that. And I didn't need to think about anything else. The other thing is that some of them, I forget which one it has what is called leaps. And it's like, oh, this is going to be a hard time. The leap from like 3 to 4 months, I think was a hard time. And it's whenever they have a lot of brain processing and stuff going. And it's like the biggest time their brain is like changing over the course of their little life. And so a lot of stuff is happening. But whenever you're paying attention to a leap, you might come and to expect, brace yourself, this is hard, and you might not enjoy what's going on or miss out what's going on, or just preparing for the worst instead of trying to enjoy the moment and what you can.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, next one is washing bottles in the dishwasher.
Yeah.
This is something I wish we would have started earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have probably heard, you guys are so improper. Listeners, you may have heard that things like rubber ducks can get moldy inside if you're not cleaning them or paying attention to when water's inside of them. I think about that now when I think about the bottles, because they have tiny little parts and crevices and stuff. And we heavily relied on hand washing those early on because it was much faster and we were going through so many bottles with twins at the beginning. Now, I mean, we're on a much less now, if any, bottles, but just deciding to run the dishwasher every day and then loading the bottles and all their respective parts in and using the dishwasher to make sure everything got super clean is really important, especially if you're using formula, right? Because that's the one that can smell and not, if you're not properly cleaning them.
Yeah. We use the Dr. Brown's anti-colic bottles that have the straw, and they just, like Nick said, stuff can get stuck in there. Our bottles are plastic, and there are opinions on running that in the dishwasher with the heat and stuff, but then also there's sterilization of bottles, and our bottles were dishwasher safe, but people still have the opinion of you shouldn't be putting them in the dishwasher. We did. We used the top rack little compartments. It was great, and it helped so much.
Yeah,
so
we had the little cage deals, two of them.
Yeah, I'll link everything.
The tiny parts in. This isn't a tiff, but I like to load them very specifically where all the cracks and crevices are pointing down uniformly so that the washer can
He's not an engineer or anything. Have we done a dishwasher tiff before?
No, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
We can use
it. We can do that one another time.
Okay, you want to talk about the next one?
Yes. So this is kind of, I think, what spurred the whole thing of controversial things we did as parents, because like I said, we didn't check a box. We checked multiple boxes and sometimes partial boxes about things we were wanting to do. For example, we combo fed, I guess, for 6 months, meaning they were breastfed and had formula, and they started losing weight. We were in the hospital around day 4. And so to kind of my milk didn't come in until a week later, to kind of supplement, we did formula, and we continued to do formula. And I think it was honestly what was best for me as far as mental health, mental load of having to pump all the time. And they both, within 2 weeks of each other, around 3 to 4 months, decided that they didn't want to nurse anymore. So then I pumped for a month later, and then I stopped around mid-February. I think it was February 19th, and they were born October 13th. And then I had a stash that they had about, 3 ounces a day a piece until they were 6 months. And then the rest of it was just formula. So combo fed, I wasn't strictly breastfed, strictly formula. It was in between. And then for feeding, whenever we started introducing food, we did a mixture of purees and whole foods. So I would not classify us as straight up baby-led weaning at all, because we didn't start with that. They did have real foods before they were 1. I think I feel like it was around maybe 5 or 6 months. I think we started oatmeal around 4 months, and then did purees. I think it was like April. I'm trying to remember because I remember in like when we got back from my sister's wedding is when we started doing purees. And then we started introducing like things like avocado and banana, and
Softer
just
solids.
went from there. And like I just didn't feel comfortable having to do, CPR or something like that should they choke when I'm focusing on 2 children. And so they were getting more comfortable with food. I was getting more comfortable with food. And that's kind of how we went from there.
Yeah.
And even like though they could feed themselves, like I wouldn't let them eat certain things like while we were in public. Just I would spoon feed them just because I didn't want to have to clean it up. Because with 2, it's just honestly different. 2 at the same age, it's just honestly a different ballgame.
I think you said this, but that was mainly in public. Like we kind of let
Yes.
them, yeah.
Or if we were in a hurry or had to go do something, I would spoon feed them here.
Or like they were in a special outfit for like a wedding or something.
Correct.
We wanted to minimize the mess risk. But yeah, typically at home they get to. I mean, we monitor them, but like they get to eat and make the messes they need to. We're encouraging them not to kindly, and then we clean it up after every meal. Shout out Bissell Crosswave.
Yeah, it's I know this is going to air later, but it's Amazon Prime and it's on sale. I just shared it. If you follow us on BoyGirlMom.com on Instagram, I just shared over there. It's 50% off right now. So I hope you grabbed one.
I'll get one.
The next thing is screen time. And I've talked about it before, but there's like studies about how screen time is bad. Overall, though, those studies are inconclusive just because they don't take into account doing other things with your kids. Like if you're letting them be a babysitter, or if you're, just doing occasional screen time.
Or if you're participating in the screen time.
Them. That too. And I think I was going to try to do like no screens until they were 2. But again, I was open to see what would happen. And they didn't really watch anything until they were like 11 months. It was right before they turned a year. And that's when it started getting really hard around dinner time, like while I was trying to prepare dinner. So we would turn on like Miss Rachel, like around that time. Now they still watch Miss Rachel. They also love Little Bear. And that's really the only 2 things that they watch. And even then it's like minimal. I don't know. I do know that like mom and their mental health matters. And so sometimes screens can help with that. And I don't know. I think you have to do what's best to your family. Just make sure you read for them too. But we were minimal on the screens and still are.
I think that taking the stigma of screen time away is supported by the studies you're referencing. And, something I'm proud of with, like, we do put those shows on for them when we need to, or when they're asking for it or whatever. But I feel like we're pretty good about participating in the shows with them, even if we're like across the room making dinner or whatever, or cleaning up. Like they'll be dancing and doing the hand motions, and we'll like engage with them and talk to them from across the room about O or A or counting or whatever. Like it's not a thing to take us out of being parents. Yeah, it's a supplement, which I think is important.
Yeah. Okay, the next thing similarly is toys. And I think we've talked about this. I forget which one we talked about it on. But I just like, we have a boy and a girl. And I had mentioned before about, a comment about not getting a boy a toy kitchen. And so I guess we're controversial in that, and that we have a toy kitchen. Both Cypress and Olive.
Men can cook.
Both Cypress and Olive play with it. And then actually last night we just gave them baby dolls, and we gave Cypress one too. Cypress likes playing with it.
And he loves it.
Yeah.
They both love it.
Yeah, they like to feed it. It goes with like pretend play. But they also both like playing with cars. I just finished the book, Why Gender Matters, and it's written for teachers and parents too, but just how the brain is wired differently. And it's like, most boys will go and play with the cars because their brains are wired for more like action, just like in the same way that they'll like draw action things, whereas girls are more likely to draw a flower or a dog or something like that. And so it's just like the way their brains are wired, but that doesn't mean they can't and shouldn't play with it. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how controversial that is anymore, hopefully, but like, and to be specific, we're not like forcing them to like specific things. I don't know what my point was there.
I think it is more controversial still than you think, but or at least the stuff I've seen, but we are open to them and encourage them to play with what they want to play with.
Yeah.
Working mom. So obviously all moms are working, but working outside the home. And I think that's something that I personally struggle with too, just because like I want to be there for them, but I also know that I'm a better mom when I have that time to myself and to do things that I want to do and that interest me and that I like to do. I'm more present with them. I'm more patient and, also bring income to the family.
Yes. And I think that if you're not a mom who wants to work, even for yourself, you also probably have hobbies and you have pieces of your lives that are not mom. Not to say there's anything wrong with being a full time mom. I think it's beautiful, but what I'm saying is I like that our kids get to see
Mm-hmm.
that mom, by example, does things that bring her joy,
Mm-hmm.
or bring in money or whatever. Like it's really not just about the money. It's like you're doing the things that you want to do and you want to accomplish, whether it's a hobby or something you're working on. Not to say I want you to take time away from them. Just like I like that they see that just like dad has a job and also hangs out with the kids and raises them, mom has a job or has a hobby or whatever else and
Mm-hmm.
does the same thing.
Yeah,
So,
before we were even ever doing this podcast, you liked the idea of them seeing like as like a good example, um, like
yeah.
working, whether that's in the home, out the home, wherever.
Yep. Taking trips is the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Taking trips away, just you and I.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that some people feel like they need to clarify that they don't need time away. I don't know. There's just controversy. Like people are mad at you if you don't, people are mad at you if you do type of thing. And I think it's really important. Maybe it's not a trip, maybe it's just a date, but just taking the time away just to be us.
Yeah, I think like we haven't talked about this before, but I take issue with this expression time away. Like I think or like I need a break or whatever. Like I think there is a component of that, but like we're doing it because we're pursuing our relationship and the things that bring us joy, sometimes separately from the kids. And as you guys know, like probably 95% of our trips, we bring the kids with us. But I would consider it more like we're pursuing each other and pursuing, travel just one-on-one or little date nights or trips one-on-one, as opposed to the entire family.
I consider it rejuvenating for us, but even after our last trip, when we're actually going away this weekend by ourselves, but when just did that in July, and that sounds like we do it a lot. This will probably be the only 2 times this year that we do it.
Hasn't been that
as
much,
far as a trip goes, and we only did it 2 times last year too. It's the opportunity does not present itself a lot, but whenever we just did this one in June where I went to Austin, I came back to LA and was like, I just feel rejuvenated and like it's not like I needed a break from them, but I needed to just relax and read a book and do something that like, I felt like a better mom when I got back.
Yeah. Another thing in this vein too is like take the golf trip, work with your spouse and make sure the kids are taken care of or they have the help they need or whatever. But like take your golf trip, take your girls trip, go take a staycation or whatever. That's something we did early on that I'm really happy we did. And we didn't do it a ton, but like part of supporting each other is supporting those things you already do, whether it's together or separate, right? Yes, I'm a dad and you're a mom, but that's not all, right? We find joy in other things. So go create space for your spouse to be able to go do those other things. And I would encourage you to do those things. Try not to make it one-sided. It's not like dad golfs every Saturday and mom knows she always has to take care of the kids, but mom doesn't get to go do something, like
they're just a break.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily saying it has to be equal, just like the availability for those things needs to exist with both spouses, in my opinion. Yeah. And it needs to be like, make sure you have coverage.
Yeah. And then also on the somewhat opposite side is like, it's controversial that we bring our kids around to stuff. We take them on airplanes where people look at us like they're not always welcome, or we bring them with us to a winery, or, we bring them into our lives. And we've talked about this before. It's not a new thing for us, but I was watching a TikTok and the dad said that their lives were shaped by their kids rather than defined by them. And I really liked how he said that, just because I feel like that leans to bringing them in on your life. Yeah. And obviously, again, we like to see what they like. We'd love to take them to do things that they will figure out that they enjoy, but we also want them to experience our life too and like what we like. And so, I don't know, bring your kids, have fun.
And, little plug for other countries. The US is not so good at this. I think the reason we feel like it's controversial or bothersome to bring our kids to those environments, even though we want to, is is kind of because that's the culture here. Like I read all the time and hear stories from other people about other countries where like it's very normal to have your kids out at a nice restaurant, or it's normal to have them travel with you. You know, I wish that was our case.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can keep modeling that for our kids.
Yeah. And then the last thing that's somewhat, I don't know, it's more so I think it's just controversial as like America versus everybody else that I wanted to bring up is like in my little mom book club here in LA, earlier this year, we read The Gift of Failure by Jessica Lahey. And one of the moms in our group was from not America, I believe Australia. I think it's Australia. And we're like, what did you think? And she was like, well, it was fine. It's just, it's a very American book. Like, I don't think other countries feel this way. And basically, a lot of American parents will go out of their way to help their children succeed, which is wonderful and a blessing, but it can also kind of not become a curse, but like if you never let them fail, they don't know what it feels like to fail, and that builds character. And like, I don't agree fully with the book because it's like the mom's like, yep, I'm not going to bring them their homework folder because they need to know what it feels like to miss their homework. I'm like, my mom would bring me my homework folder and I still had a great work ethic. And like, you know, if I left my regular bra at home and she didn't want, and she would bring me my regular bra so I didn't have to wear my sweaty sports bra all day long. And so like, I don't agree with everything in the book, but it is interesting of just like letting your children fail just so they know what that's like.
Yeah. With you.
Which I think other countries probably do better than the US.
Probably.
Yeah. Any other controversial things you want to talk about that I missed?
No, I think a blanket statement is like, don't be afraid of the controversial things. Like, I don't know that much of.
Says the guy who likes to stare controversy right in the face.
Well, yeah, like, I mean, we have to agree there's not a perfect way to parent. There's not a perfect set of tasks that you have to do or ways that you act as a parent. So basically anything you do is going to be controversial to the wrong audience, you know, or to a specific audience. So like, I think in the same way, I would recommend you talk about these things and discuss different approaches with your other dad or mom friends. Like, be comfortable in being different from people you talk about or talk to about these things. It's okay, right? There isn't a right way. And just because somebody else believes they're doing it right doesn't mean you're doing it wrong.
We kind of talk about that in our episode, Where Are Their Parents? Because people are going to parent differently than you. And obviously you don't have to agree with them, but you can be open and listen. You might find something you like that you can cherry pick and put in your little basket of the combo parenting styles you like to do.
Yeah.
Okay, but we do have a quick question from Ask BGMAD.
Okay.
All right. And it's kind of controversial. Fits with today.
Okay.
It says, what are your opinion on child leashes? So I'll go first. And
yeah, please
you can
go
say,
first.
Okay. So I remember like seeing child leashes when I was younger, like under 18, and being like, ugh. And like the stigma I think around that time was like, you know, lazy parent, not a good look. But I think that overall your goal as a parent is to keep your kids safe. And if your child notoriously runs off and you're trying to keep them safe, especially like this was a question from like a twin parent, if you're taking them somewhere and you're trying to keep them safe, I don't think that's a lazy parent thing. I think that you're doing what you need to do to keep them safe, and that's their job.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what's tough for me is like leash makes me think of like a dog or a pet, you know? And I like, if you think of it just from the sense of like what it physically is and not the connotation of having a pet, like obviously your kids aren't pets. You shouldn't treat them that way. And I have the same stigma of like, to me, it's like the person using the leash is the one using it at the theme park for their kid who's going crazy. And that's not to say that's all I've seen. Just that's the perception in my mind of like, you're using something to allow you to be a little lazier as a parent and let your kid go crazy. Which like, I agree with you. If you're using it, I don't have a problem with them in general. That's my answer. I don't know that I want us to use them, but I 100% see the benefit of being able to ensure your kid is safe, especially when you see all these scary videos of how quickly some kid can be snatched up,
taken run away,
especially in super busy areas. So like, I don't think they're inherently bad. I think if you're just like any other tool, if you're using it to not as a supplement or as a safety device, and you're using it to like be lazy and allow your kid to be crazy or something, like maybe reevaluate that.
Well, and I think that that's assuming you know what laziness looks like on them, and that you may not get the whole picture of like why they need it. I think that there are a lot of challenges that some parents face that they need the help with it, and they're doing the best that they can, and they need the help with it. And it's essentially just like maybe the child doesn't like to hold hands, and so they don't want to hold hands across the street, blah, blah, blah. You're keeping them safe. So again, I think it looks different for everybody, and that's kind of the whole purpose of this episode.
I don't have anything else.
Okay. All right. We did it. High five.
Crisp high five. In the microphone.
Thank you so much for listening today. We appreciate it. If you liked it, please give us a rating. If you're watching on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up. And please send in any questions or comments or topic requests for us. We'd love to do it for you.
Thanks
you can
for being
email
here.
us at hello@boygirlmom.com or send us a DM at boygirlmom.com. Thank you.
Thanks for growing with us.
See you next time.
Bye.
Boy, girl, mom died. Gotta wash those butts together. It's a trip, but we'll guide you through with tips and tricks for boys and girls too.